Hi. Hi. Okay.
First
Like,
question. Why Flipzoids?
Flipzoids was written in 1996 in New York by Ralph B. Pena. He wanted very, very much to be a member of theater, but with pushing the Filipino. And what they did is they formed a group called MAYI Theater, MA-YI Theater, sa New York. Pero ang nangyari, kumukuha sila ng play na nanggagaling sa Philippines, tapos tinatranslate nila into English. And neither the American nor the Filipino liked it. Ayaw nila. Parang force. So he said, I would like to write a play. So he wrote Flipzoids. What it is, actually, a zoid is someone like you'd think of a zombie kind of a person, some jelly-looking thing that really doesn't morph into anything. It's like you're just a being, parang ganon. And so he wrote Flipzoids because flip is a derogatory term
for Filipino.
for Filipino, di ba? I cannot tell you the first word, but it begins with F. Okay, so it's F. So it's little island people. See, it's effing little island people. That was like a derogatory term that was being mentioned before. So he decided to show a story of three characters. No? One is the offspring, a very young offspring of a very successful couple that goes to the States and wants nothing to do with the culture. Ayaw na talaga. Anything to do with Philippines, they hate the Philippines, ganon. Walang turning back. They didn't teach their child any culture, nothing. The second character is a nurse, our proverbial nurse, who by the hundreds goes to the US. She's from Pagudpud, Ilocos. Yeah? And what happens is, she knows that one of the things that the Americans at that time, nauuna, 80s to ha, this is an 80s kind of a story. At that time, they used to say, Filipinos, they pay $50, you get a, you get a diploma. Yung parang ganon, very derogatory. So, her name is Vanji. Vanji's whole purpose is to belong to this small, culture, to belong to a more intelligent group. Kaya binabasa niya diksyonaryo. Nagme-memorize siya ng dictionary and all of that. Aying, my character, is a 72-year-old traditional woman from Pagudpud who has absolutely no love for Anaheim, California. She's like, Anaheim is not for old people. She goes like this, she complains. No? And so, this is Ralph B. Pena's attempt, phenomenal attempt, at showing what happens to an immigrant when they uproot themselves from their home and try to belong in another country. As it says in the synopsis, parang hybrid. You all become hybrids. So, the scenario is, they all meet sort of in an hour and a half. The whole thing happens in 3 hours. But the play is only an hour and 40 minutes. Walang intermission. We're all on stage all the time. I'm the only one who doesn't even have a chance to hide behind the wall. Wala talaga. So, I have monologues of, whole pages long. But I tell you something. The way he wrote this play, it is... I stopped acting for 30 years. I quit. I'm a theater arts major. And I loved the theater, but I burned out. And I went into pop music. So, I was a Vicor, yung mga ganon, di ba? And when I got to the States, an actress friend said, Becca, there's somebody auditioning. Readers Theater. You just read. No? She says, I told them to call you. What? So I got auditioned over the phone. And I did a Reader's Theater. The author was Mona Simpson, who's the sister of Steve Jobs. Apple? Yes. And so, she was a writer of a film, a book that became a film with Susan Sarandon and Natalie Portman. I get a phone call from this lady who does word theater, and she heard me on the phone and she goes, I know you can do it. come to my house. That was my audition, sa telepono. So I auditioned for it, maybe in 2005, something like that. And I went to her house, and she told me, "You're gonna read this part. It's from a book that's still being developed." And when I went to the place, my other co-actor was Dermot Mulroney. And I'm like, okay. Talk about inferiority complex after seeing that. But that was the beginning. So by the time the script for Flipzoid was thrown to me in 2011, I was ready to read a script. And so, going back to your question, why Flipzoids? Ralph Peña wanted to show culturally how different kinds of people react to being in a foreign land that they now have to call their own. Hi, I haven't met you. Hi. So ganon. That was it. Haba ng answer, no?
So how did the audience react to the Whipple when it first
I don't know how they reacted in New York. No? When the script was thrown to me in 2011, 2012, in October of 2012, there was going to be a big event at the Los Angeles Theater Center. It's in downtown LA. It's a huge former bank building. Tapos, ino-audition nila itong mga playwrights and or plays to see what fits with that particular program they had for that month. So they had Latino, they had, and all that. Flipzoids was the only Asian parang entry. In January, auditions are in January. Okay, Jennifer Paz, who took over Lia Salonga, phenomenal singer actress, and I are friends. So she said, I'll read the part of my daughter to audition. Pero hindi siya kinoconsider, ako lang ang kinoconsider for the role. So I said, sige, we rehearsed a little bit. Pagdating sa building, pumasok akong ganito sa building. May 3 upuan na may stand, and then another one on the side for the lady to go scene 1, act 1. It was dark. Then we start reading. And 15 chairs in front of me of people just going like this. Yun ang audition. And I said, Father God, please, Lord, let them hear my words and not the pounding of my nerves in my ears. It was really, I was so nervous, But I had studied the script. I loved the role. And then, the guy got up and all he said, the head of the whole theater thing, he says, she was funny. You laugh, and then he laughed. They don't tell you when you audition. They have to be fair to everybody, so they don't tell you. I did not know until July of 2012 that I won the lead. So I waited all that time and found out. When the play went on, most of our audience was American, who loved it. If you see some of the reviews, they loved it. They just said, she made us laugh, she made us cry. Ang galing ng pagkagawa ni John Lawrence. Kasi si John Lawrence Rivera, you're never, if they say, there was a wall that had maybe he'll put us a pole. It's always the suggestion of something. Because what happens is new theater allows you to imagine the actor has to be good enough that when they say, there's an expression in theater that says, there isn't a head in the hat box. Because there's a play where a woman is going like this because she beheaded someone with the head in the box. And she's walking around the play with this box. If you're a good actress, everybody will believe may ulo talaga sa loob. Wala naman talaga, di ba? So, this is your imagination then. How good are you an actor, di ba? That they will believe there's a head inside that hat box. It's basically sort of the way John Lawrence Rivera is. My scene, my entire scene is on a, from here to there, no? Siguro mga, 6 feet down, 3 tons of sand. I'm supposed to be on the beach. And the representation of the ocean is a bowl. Ganun, kalaki. May tubig. And that's the representation of the ocean. It's you really use your imagination. And I'm playing, I'm old, but never mind. I'm playing an older woman. yung ginagawa natin na white, you know, if you act so well, your age, people will believe you are that age. Period. So it was an amazing experience for me. Amazing. So it was my return to the theater after 30 years. Done?
What did you do to prepare for the role?
Every actor is supposed to build an arc, ARC, no? And you read your character. My character came from Pagudpud. She learned how to use the singer sewing machine. She was born at a certain year. I had to, all of us had to create a story. Who was she? Where was she born? Where did she live? What did she do? You have to build an arc. Because when you say a certain line, it has to be so credible. You believe that that's really your past. No? So, for me, I researched, there really was a singer sewing machine ad in 1929, I think, or 1930, with a lady that was nakabarot saya, with her hair going like this with a singer sewing machine. And I said, oh my gosh. And then she lived by the ocean, you know. And so I had to create a story. In the story, she never mentions a husband. We never really thought about that, but she never mentions a husband. Why? There were very few people now in Ilocos, men, single men, because it was in the era, or at least I researched this, it was in the era when there was an exodus of farmers that went to Hawaii. So a lot of women had very slim pickings. Talagang konti lang yung mga lalaki doon. So I created a background story about her. Bakit wala siyang asawa at bakit siya nabuntis? Bakit mayroon siyang anak? Ano ba talagang nangyari? Bakit ba sewing machine? Bakit siya may sewing machine? Kasi siguro nahihiya yung family, no? She cannot go out to work. Siguro bumili sila ng sewing machine so that she could learn. Kaya, these were the stories I created for her. And when you approach the theater with enough of a solid base in your character, then you are credible. You can create a real, or as real as you can get it, person. I am also a singer. So when I interpret lines, meron akong automatic kama, breathe, say the line. Yung parang there is a cadence. After a while, you get to say, ano ba talaga ang speech style niya? You know, I talked to an Ilocano couple, and I recorded them to say, how do they really say, like for example, she never says she. They always said si. Si is very good. She is very, very good, my daughter, ha? Yung ganon, no? Because, and she lived here. Here, H-Y-E-R. Those are little things that you add to the character to make her credible. That's it. Tama?
So there would, for the production in the US and here, it will be the same for the script,
Everything is the same. So basically what it is we're bringing the US production here. The set designer, John H. Binkley, is like a huge set designer. Ours is the last set he's designing. He resigned and he's now a dean at University of California, Northridge. Huh? But when I said, please John, I want to bring it to Manila, please, he says, okay. So he asked me to give him the exact dimensions of Music Museum. In-adjust niya yung design, kasi yung set namin pa ganito, diretso. Yung set ng Music Museum gumaganon. So itong set na to, if he kept it this way, lahat ng tao doon will only see our backs. No? So ang ginawa niya, sinorten niya yung set and he opened it up a little bit. No? Pero kinuha niya, he was so good, he got the blueprint, he recreated the set, gave it to the people here, so much so that my lighting designer here, who's taking over the light, you know, from the States, her name is Shakira Symes. Shakira Villa Symes, no? Anyway, he's eating. She said, kasi we have to set up. I said, Shakira, you have the blueprints. Really? End of problem. Good, okay, finished. So everything that was from the 2012 production, I believe there may have been a school, I don't know. There was a production in the 90s, no? But the 2012 production, we basically picked it up and brought it here. So all permissions and yung mga costumes, for example, you say to the original producer, can we use that and bring it? Diba? You have to get, you have to apply for licensing. You have to make sure union is approved. Talagang lahat-lahat yun, But everything from the US we're bringing here, including the set. The set, Jotech has a picture of all the parts of the set and they're duplicating it, including the graffiti in the bathroom.
We're excited.
I'm so excited for people to come because at this age, naku, parang akong ancient. At this age, the decision to do things now is because it really means something. I don't want to do it anymore if it's just because everybody else is doing it or it's the popular thing to do. I want to do it because it fulfills something inside. That creative, talagang, even the interpretation of lines. When she says, there is a fisherman who go into the water very early in the morning to the very deep water. We call that nahot, where you catch the biggest fish. And she just goes into this theme, no? And then all of a sudden she goes, Huhu. Because that is all I know. This character of hers, she's losing her memory. She's at an age where she's starting to lose her memory. No? And so, there's so many parts of her character. She's sitting there in the beach, nakabarot saya sa beach. Sabi nung, the young boy meets her and says, where are you from? Anaheim. No, I meant, where are you from? And she goes, you know Japan? Yes, you're Japanese. No, near Japan, the Philippines. She's just Looney Tunes. And that's what makes her character so interesting.
Well, you yourself, you're a migrant. So,
Yes.
from the characters, how did you relate to the characters of
100% related to her.
Like, for example, Redford's lack of connection to other people, or Evangelina's wanting to be assimilated to the larger culture. Like, when you were younger, did you feel those?
When I felt it most because when I left the Philippines the first time, I went to Rio de Janeiro. I lived there for a year. And then I moved to the US. And so there were culturally two differences that I had to live with. First Rio de Janeiro and then the US. When you go to the US, I was looking for anonymity. I would just, if I had to go somewhere, the first thing I do is go home, remove my lipstick, put sweatshirt, t-shirt, free, right? But then, there's missing bagoong. You know what I'm saying, There's that sense that there's a part of me that has one foot in the Philippines and one foot in the US. And what is it about here? I'm reminded about the smells. There's a line in the play. Immediately, the first time I read it, I cried. Why? It said, I stand in the middle of my kitchen and I touch the black bottom of my favorite caldero. I stand a very long time also and I smell my mother's cooking. When I said that line the first time in rehearsals, I wept. The connection of someone who is uprooted from their country, to the connection of home. That was very, very strong for me. Number two, I just lost my dad. And so I sensed my mother's loneliness. This woman is lonely. She's lonely. She's looking for that connection talaga, with her home. And she goes, where will you bury me? She's always asking, where are you going to bury me? She goes, I think in Orange Country, they do not let you throw your dead mother in the river. Yung mga ganon, mga linya niyang lumalabas. So, when I went to America, I went through loneliness, through adjustment, cultural adjustment also, Yung parang, how do you do old world and translate that to America? Because my daughter, I have a daughter, she's now 30, she'll be 31. There's one in August. Okay? And how do you do that? How do you allow her to still appreciate the culture that I love, the blood that goes through ears, Pinoy, you know? And so I went through that. And so my daughter in the beginning was kind of offish about it because she couldn't relate. But then I began to teach her the culture. And so therein lies the story. Some people accept it and some people just don't want to. That's how I kind of related with Aying. Redford, the young boy, is so lost. I don't want to give it away, no? He is so lost kasi wala siyang roots. Pinoy siya, nag-bleach blonde yung, sort of a symbolic movement or whatever to fit in to the American, so he bleaches his hair. But he's looking to connect. So when he sees me on the beach wearing baro at saya, he goes, "You there?" with a gothic costume or whatever. No, he goes down there because he says, "Wait, something familiar."
So, if you get to share your input on how some scenes were given, you're also impacted. So
John Lawrence in the US, at least or in my experience with John Lawrence, he has a clear vision of what he wants the play to begin, middle, and end. The beginning, the middle, and the end of that is John Lawrence's vision. What he does as a phenomenal director is you bring to the table as an actor, you bring to the table your interpretation of what the character will be, and he will let you. You do it. Now, if you happen to go off a little too much, he goes up. He adjusts it to be able to live within that vision of what he does. For example, we have a scene. I'm not gonna give it away. There's a scene where the young boy kind of wants to show affection, right? But she's very provincial. So when he makes an attempt to hold her, she goes, "Hi, are you a rapist?" And she crawls away, And so we were trying to work that scene. It just was not working. Wasn't working. And then I said, "John, what about if I do this and then we do this?" And so you give your suggestions. But he's the director. It's his vision. So what you contribute to the play is what you've studied character-wise. How do you interpret a line? For example, she says, he went to the water and he pulled this hand, because I used to read it, and he knelt down because this is not ordinary. First few times I read it, I would say, and he knelt